When we hear the name Mao Zedong, what comes to mind? A communist leader who founded the People's Republic of China. The architect of the Cultural Revolution, which forever changed China. Or a dictator whose policies led to the deaths of millions. But there is one side of Mao that few people know. Before becoming a feared ruler, he was a talented poet. How could a man known for his absolute power also possess such a deep artistic soul? And how did his poetry influence Chinese politics and history? This is the story of Mao Zedong, the poet who became a ruler. Mao Zedong was born in 1893 in Hunan, China. From a young age, he loved reading and writing. He studied classical Chinese literature, including ancient poetry from the Tang and Song dynasties. Before becoming a revolutionary, Mao was not a soldier or a politician. He was a bookworm who loved writing poetry. Even amidst political turmoil and war, Mao found time to write. His works were filled with symbolism and emotional intensity, reflecting his journey from an idealistic young man to an authoritarian ruler. Mao Zedong's poetry was powerful, filled with natural metaphors and a revolutionary spirit. One of his most famous poems, Changsha 1925, was written when he was still a young activist. In this poem, he expressed his desire for change and his belief that China's future would be shaped by revolution. One of its most striking lines reads, "I ask the vast sky, who decides the rise and fall of the world?" This verse reflects Mao's philosophy that history is not shaped by fate, but by those who dare to act. Mao's poems often depicted nature in a grand, majestic way, symbolizing how he saw himself as a force destined to reshape the world. When Mao rose to power, he didn't just use speeches and political propaganda to control the people. He used poetry as well. He wrote about the Communist Party's victories, the strength of the people, and even the battles he led. Every word he wrote was not just an artistic expression, but it was a tool to build his image as an irreplaceable leader. In one of his most famous poems, Snow, Mao boldly compared himself to China's greatest emperors. "The great emperors of the past may have been glorious, but today, only I truly surpass them all." This poem reinforced his self-image as a leader greater than any emperor in China's history. But behind his beautiful verses, Mao Zedong was a leader whose policies led to disaster. His Great Leap Forward 1958 to 1962 caused massive famine, killing tens of millions. Later, during the Cultural Revolution 1966 to 1976, Mao mobilized China's youth to destroy so-called enemies of the revolution, plunging the country into turmoil and suffering. Yet even in the midst of chaos and destruction, Mao continued to write poetry, if his words could distract from the devastation he had caused. Was Mao Zedong an artist who loved the beauty of poetry? Or was he simply a dictator who used literature as a propaganda tool? Perhaps the answer is both. Mao was not just a political leader, he was also a poet who understood the power of words. He used them to shape his image, control public opinion, and secure his place in history. He died in 1976, but his poetry remains, remembered both by those who admire him and by those who recall the darkest times of his rule. For more fascinating stories about world leaders, don't forget to follow Secrets of World History. Join us on a journey to uncover unforgettable stories that will change the way you see history.